Foreign bricklayers and plasterers have been given the green light to come to Britain despite record net migration, sparking a bit of a backlash from some Conservative MPs. They are among construction workers placed on the shortage occupation list. There is such a list, which allows employers to recruit foreign staff on salaries as low as £20,960 or 80% of the going rate. Roofers, tilers, carpenters, joiners are also added to the list, which entitles them to a discount on visa fees. Meanwhile, the government has managed to fight off that latest challenge from the House of Lords seeking to change its illegal migration bill. Let's get two voices on this. Conservative MP for Crawley is Henry Smith, and for the Green Party, Baroness Jenny Jones is with us. Jenny, good afternoon to you. Firstly, what is going on here? I know you're not a Conservative. Anything but, of course. But you are there in the House of Lords. You've been very vocal on this bill. I get all of that. But there is something curious, isn't it, when we can't find our own bricklayers?
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this bill is not going to go anywhere. It's going to become an act, obviously, because it did pass through our House last night in spite of opposition. We didn't win the votes. But it's not going to work because so much of it is illegal. It's going to get caught up in courts and all sorts of cases where the government cannot win. And plus, we haven't yet heard from the Supreme Court about Rwanda and whether it's a safe country or not. So the government, I don't know, it's somehow flying flags to appeal to its far-right members. It's not doing... Is
it far right or just people who are concerned about, you know, why would you add 500 single men to a town that's got a population of 12,000 people? That's a reasonable concern, isn't it? Doesn't make you far right.
Well, well, I'm afraid some of the messages I've had on my social media have been from quite nasty far-right people, and so I would argue that this is a policy that is going to appeal to them very strongly. But last night we had votes on things like children, on unaccompanied children and how long to hold them in detention and so on. And we also had a vote on modern slavery. Now, it was the Conservative government that brought in the Modern Slavery Act. And last night they voted against the motion that actually kept us observant of the Modern Slavery Act. I do not know how a Conservative MP, forgive me, Henry, can actually look any of us in the eye this morning.
Well, let's ask a Conservative MP. Henry Smith, how can you look Jenny in the eye via a screen?
Well, I look my electorate in the eye. Jenny doesn't have to be elected. She's a member of an appointed house. I knock on doors every week. I speak to people. People aren't shy in terms of emailing me or indeed posting stuff on my social media as to what they're concerned about. And unsustainable levels of immigration is definitely one of the top issues that people are very worried about. In my constituency, for example, there are proposals for 10,000 additional houses. Those are needed essentially because our population is growing because of migration. And as a result of that, people are understandably concerned. And I find it very bizarre that a Green member of the House of Lords is in favour of us having to build tens of thousands of houses on ancient woodland, on greenfield sites, just to fill unsustainable immigration numbers. As you said, Mike, we've had net migration in this country in the last couple of years of over 500,000 people. If that isn't enough to fill those roles that we need for our economy, and I don't argue against that, we introduced a points-based immigration system like many countries, like the US, Australia. If that doesn't do the trick, the question is what is the obvious upper limit on immigration? It's unsustainable to add 500,000 people to a population of an already very island year on year on year, and actually that just puts more pressure on things like house building and public service.
Okay, just before we'll get back into the issue of specific workers in a moment, but Jenny, just respond to that. I mean, it is out of control, isn't it? We have too many people coming here. It's not right. It's not fair on the people coming here either.
Nonsense. We need workers, and you said that earlier yourself. And in fact, if we allowed them to work, then we would have...
But these aren't bricklayers and plumbers in those boats, are they?
Of course they could be. How do you know who they are? Of course they could be.
Is that your sense?
They might be prepared to be reskilled. Now, I was a bit disappointed in Henry's response. He's a bit snarky about the fact that I'm not elected. I have been elected, and I knock on doors a lot because I helped get our councillors elected, and I'm hoping to get some MPs elected as well. So I talk to people as well. And this isn't about building more houses on green space and so on. This is about being a good, honest, generous country when it comes to people who are vulnerable. And also, the Conservatives, of course, have broken the whole the whole system for actually safe and legal routes. This is why we have so many people landing on our shores or in detention centres. It's because the Conservatives have not invested and not put the effort into actually making safe and legal routes so that people can come here. Vulnerable people make their homes here, pay their taxes, do their stuff, be hospital doctors, be dentists, be bricklayers, be farm labourers or whatever. If the Conservative Party, if the Conservative government was a little bit more competent, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in now.
Is that what's going on here, Henry? I mean, just aside from the illegal immigration bill, this other point that we've looked at today, why we're having to import carpenters and butchers and bricklayers and the like, how the heck has that happened?
Well, it's about making sure that young people in this country have the right skills to be able to fill those roles. And actually, that's one of the things that the government yesterday were doing in terms of bearing down on some of these nonsense degrees that exist in universities that aren't equipping our young people to do the real jobs that a modern economy needs. But this idea that we don't have safe and legal routes for people coming to this country is a nonsense. It's impossible to say that in one breath and then in the other breath acknowledge that we've had over 500,000 people legally come to this country in the last couple of years alone. It is about the sort of people that are allowed to settle in this country with the skills that they have and not allowing some sort of illegal migration system, which actually just puts people's lives at risk on the English Channel and fuels.
But why aren't British workers doing these jobs? The Home Secretary, your Home Secretary, Henry, a month ago said there's no reason we can't get Brits to do these jobs. But we can't get Brits to do these jobs, and we're now offering foreign agencies the chance to send people over here to do the jobs that Brits either can't or won't do.
Well, I'm a big fan of supporting increasing further the apprenticeship scheme. It gives a fantastic start to particularly young people, but those reskilling as well.
You've had 13 years to get that right, though.
No, I acknowledge that, Mike, and actually I think there have been many...
Can I just say, you're talking to Ian by there, Henry. I've only known you for 17 years, so it's an easy mistake to make. But, yes, so you've had...
I do apologise.
All right. You've had a lot of time, though, as a party to get this in order.
I can't see, by the way, for some reason.
No, just fair enough, fair enough. Jenny, I mean, aside from the illegal immigration bill, what is happening with British labour shortages? Why do we need to import people?
Well, the problem is we've always relied on a lot of overseas people coming in and helping all through society. As I said, you know, hospitals, dentists, creating small businesses in shops and so on. We've always needed people from abroad. We're an ageing population. We need an influx of young people with young, fresh ideas. And part of the strength of Britain has always been its multiculturalism and the fact that it can, you know, think and imagine things and be creative. And that's been part of our British psyche. And here the Conservative government's put down, and remember, I voted for Brexit, OK? I actually thought that they could deliver, and it's been the most appalling mess.
I didn't know you voted for Brexit, Jenny. You surprise me every time we speak. What's going on here?
There you go.
You and Nigel Farage joined at the hip on this one.
Well, actually, I never met him, and I still haven't met him. I'm obviously delighted to say. But the thing was, we could have had a different future, and the Conservative government has messed it up so badly. We're now short of people in almost every area of life in Britain. And if we can't have people coming in from abroad, then we won't be able to fill those posts.
Can I get a word from you, Jenny, while you are with us? The Just Stop Oil tarmac terrorists have been out again today, wrecking the place, inconveniencing people's lives, causing hysteria and pandemonium, telling people the planet's about to end. When can this stop? You're a Green Party member. I've never seen you menacing folk in the street. You've done it in the proper way. You've found a voice in politics. You've spoken at the dispatch box. You're now an ermine-clad baroness. What about that? That's the way to do it, isn't it? Not disorganising or scuppering people's everyday lives.
Well, in fact, of course, when climate change hits us really hard, as it will in a few years, then we will be suffering. And actually what Just Stop Oil is doing at the moment will be as nothing to the sort of disruption that we have. But can I just say, all this nonsense about they're stopping ambulances and all that sort of thing, they've always let ambulances through, they let public transport through. They're actually incredibly peaceful protesters. And interrupting, I don't know, a sports event for a few moments is as nothing compared with the climate crisis. And as a baroness, I did get arrested outside on Parliament Square a few years ago, and I was so scruffy they didn't know who I was, and so I got arrested and handcuffed, and it was all very unpleasant.
All of that happened. You need a holiday in the Mediterranean right now, Jenny, to calm down from all of this. It's nice and warm over there.
That's interesting. I'm actually going to spend the whole of August on my allotment. That's what I need, not a holiday in the Mediterranean, where it's absolutely baking on fire.
It is, yeah. I think it's called, what's the word? Summer. That's the one. Henry, what do you say about the Just Stop Oil protesters? I mean, they're out there again. They seem to have amped up their tactics here. I mean, this has gone from being, a protest that many people say, well, right to protest, we all kind of agree with that, but there's a balance here. We're not really seeing much of a response from anybody.
Well, there is a right to protest, of course there is, but there isn't a right to seriously disrupt other people's lives for a cause that you particularly feel strongly with. And, Jenny's talking about they don't cause serious disruption. I mean, they were trying to stop London Underground and Docklands Light Railway last year. Those are examples of mass transit systems, the sort of things that we're told we need more of to make sure that we are reducing our carbon emissions. This is about, I think, sort of a civil disobedience. There is a wider picture, I think, to the fact that they are protesting. And it's quite interesting that a number of the key members of Just Stop Oil are not only linked to the Labour Party, but one of them was a former Shell employee with a pension fund of over £1 million.
Wow.
So it really does.
Nice work if you can get it, right?
Nice work if you can get it, yeah.
Good work. Henry, thank you. That is Henry Smith, Conservative MP. And Baroness Jenny Jones, thank you, Jenny, as well. Green Party peer. I had no idea that Jonesy voted for Brexit. What about that? What a revelation on this programme. Or that she was cuffed by the old Bill as well for her protestations over this. I mean, when you look at the Just Stop Oil thing, I mean, there is a kind of there's a sort of there's a sort of Romero madness in this. There's a zombie-like kind of characters holding hands in the street, holding up the traffic, doesn't matter. One or two very brave members of the public, you can see it there on the footage, trying to step in just to let people go about their everyday business. And you heard that clip that we played earlier on. I mean, this is peak hysteria. This really is death cult territory. It's not normal. This is not how normal people behave. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it gets a little warmer. Sometimes it gets a little hotter. Sometimes it's unbearable. Biggest fear in terms of people dying, by the way, is the cold. More people die of that. They keep quoting this 60,000 people a year across Europe. Most of that would have been because of cold weather, not because of hot weather. So you have these rather inconvenient facts that doesn't seem to, in any shape or form, penetrate the rather parochial, dull minds of the people in orange who are still hell-bent on making your life hell. 0344 499 1000. Back to the workforce. Foreign workers. We've got 3.9 million foreign workers in this country. We need more bricklayers and truck drivers and people that work in construction, etc. Where are all the British workers?